Hi there. My name is Kim Nixon. Welcome to my live streaming studio. This is where I teach all of my live streaming classes. I am a yoga teacher and a massage therapist. I've been teaching yoga classes for Maine General since 2014. And since this past year, all of the on site classes, of course, um, have not been going on. I'm doing this series of videos for Maine General on therapeutic applications of yoga. So, this is kind of the lens of how I teach yoga, sort of a combination of the philosophy of massage and the philosophy of yoga in this particular series. So, this is our sixth class, and this class is yoga for feet and ankles. And feet are our foundation. So anything going on in the feet, it's just like the foundation of a house. If something, that's why, if we're going to buy a house, we're always looking for having a good foundation, a good structure, because anything going on in the foundation of a house will also extend to other areas of the house. And it's the same with our body and with our feet. And in our culture, through the years, it's almost like our feet have become sort of a forgotten thing. We don't have a good awareness of our feet. And they're our foundation. So anything going on in the feet has a chain reaction throughout the body. So, what we're focusing on today, common causes of foot and ankle pain, very important because so much of this is in our control. When we have an injury, when we have something going on in our body, we just think we have to deal with it. But the practice of yoga and knowing or having someone advise us on what we might be able to do that might help, so much of it can be within our control. So, common causes of foot and ankle pain: tight calves and Achilles tendons, poor ankle mobility, lost range of motion in our feet and ankles, weak feet and ankles. Do you know that we have 20 plus muscles in each of our feet? We certainly don't have awareness of all of those muscles. We barely have an awareness of our feet. We just have big expectations of our feet. We expect them, we use them all the time. All of our waking hours, we're on our feet. Lack of awareness of feet, lack of proper alignment. So these are the things that we're going to be working with today. Health of feet and ankles, vital for our well-being. We wouldn't really think that. Other contributors to foot and ankle issues: aging. Because, I swear, as we age, it's like all of the old injuries come back to haunt us. I had a foot issue for 2 years of my life, so much pain in my feet. I was working with foot and ankle specialists. This part of what was causing it, it was attributed to an old injury from back in my 30s. So I had so much pain in my feet. I was in custom orthotics. I had literally thrown away all of my shoes. And what ended up happening to me, and that's why I'm so passionate about this practice and why this particular one for feet and ankles is really very personal for me, very near and dear to my heart, because I actually healed my feet and ankles. And that wasn't what I set out to do because I didn't realize it was possible. So, what I like to share is that, we don't always know that it's possible. There are huge benefits, huge healing benefits, huge potential for healing through yoga. Um, Excess body weight is a contributor. Um, years of bad shoes. So I don't know who can relate to this, but so first of all, one of the contributors to my foot and ankle issues was tied back to a sprained ankle in my 30s. And the other piece that I sort of put together on my own is the close to 2 decades that I spent in pumps. So I worked for state government for 29 years before becoming a massage therapist and a yoga teacher. So this is my second career. So what you're going to need for practice today, one block if you have it, at least one blanket that you can fold under your seat. Very important when you're seated like I am. I'm used to this posture, but for those who aren't, you would want to have your seat raised up a bit. So let's drop right in. We're actually going to come right up to standing to start. So making your way up to hands and knees. All bodies are going to be able to do this practice. So at least one blanket for your practice today, maybe two. Nice solid blankets are nice rather than a fluffy, squishy, slippery blanket. At some point, you may actually want it under your knees, but we're going to come up to standing. So you can either just come straight up to standing, or you can drop in with me and come up through down dog. So I'm going to cue this out, wrists directly under the shoulders, full expression of the hands on the mat. So my fingers aren't closed up here. Giving a nice big base. You'll see we're going to do this the same with the toes for the feet. So our toes are pretty forgotten too. Rolling the inner elbows toward each other, or rolling the inner elbow creases toward each other or toward the front of your mat, however it's easiest for you to integrate that, and tipping the toes under. If you have a hard time with that because of tight feet, that's what this class is all about. Lost range of motion in the toes. So you can slide the foot forward here and just slide it back. And I'm just going to start to press back through the base of my palm, the base of my index finger, and the base of my thumb. And I'm going to start to lift my body weight, knees bent, dropping my head toward the mat. I'm going to keep my knees bent. Awareness first to the elbows. We're not going to be here long, but make sure the arms are active and the elbows are rolled toward each other. Knees bent. I would recommend keeping them bent for those with lower back issues. And then just drawing the navel toward the spine, gaze down to your mat or down to your toes, and just starting to, as we call it, walk the dog. So pressing one heel at a time toward the mat. Notice that my weight isn't forward. I'm pressing back, continuing to press back through the base of the hands. And if you're like, oh, no way with this down dog, again, we're not staying here. So walk the feet forward, walk the hands back. Down dog, bend into the knees, rolling up slowly. Down dog, I always say down dog can feel awkward, just like a number of things in yoga can feel awkward for years. So don't expect anything in yoga to feel really comfortable. Let's just roll the shoulders back. And then bringing the feet to about hip width. And we always think that's much wider than it is. So hip width being about the width of your fist sideways. And just rock back and forth in the feet, just sort of saying hello to the feet. And we're just going to do some ankle circles to open the ankles. So shifting your body weight a little bit to the left side, starting with the right ankle. And you can just bring your hands to your thighs or to your hips or wherever it feels comfortable for you. So balancing a bit on this left foot and bringing the toes of the right foot to the mat. And I really want to keep my weight in this left leg as much as I can and start to open those right toes and your right ankle. So being very gentle, there's not a lot of weight. I'm not putting a lot of weight on this right side. You may feel cracking and popping or hear cracking and popping. That's actually good as long as you don't have a lot of weight there on that side and shifting. So shifting to that right side body foundation and the other foot. So just really opening things up to start and breathing. Because when we're concentrating and when we're balancing, we're not breathing, switching directions with that circle, being really, really gentle with it. Notice what's going on in the opposite foot and then planting that foot back down. So after today's practice, your feet are very likely going to feel sore. And this is the practice that I would recommend for anyone who has foot and ankle issues, or one of, many. Always try when I'm doing one of these classes to sort of consolidate what I think are the best of the best and the easiest, actually, so that it's universally, so that someone can come into this class who has done yoga before, but someone can also practice who hasn't done yoga before. So arms down to the sides, and I'm just going to lift my hands, start to stretch up overhead, and then coming up onto the toes. And as soon as we come up onto the toes, we've lost that nice big foundation that we have when we have our feet fully on the ground. So very hard, and exhaling down. Just good exercise for the feet. Inhaling up, stretching up onto the toes, and exhaling down. And then shake those feet out. Now, if you have a block, if you don't, it's no big deal. You can do this without a block, but I'm going to explain why the block is so beneficial in bringing awareness to the feet. So placing this block in between the thighs, and this is the skinny part, the skinny way of the block. So the least, where it's the least width, and then try to bring those feet, because immediately it makes our feet go wider. So try to bring the feet back to that hip width apart, that one fist. And if they're a tiny bit wider, that's fine. I'm going to squeeze this block a little with my thighs and just breathing in and breathing out. And then just let your arms relax down. Draw your navel toward your spine and bring your awareness to your feet. And just start to sort of rock or circle just a tiny bit. So we're just going to, in yoga, we always look at the 8 points in the feet, 4 points in each foot. And this comes into play throughout the practice of yoga in all standing postures, but especially important for the feet when we're talking about the feet, and can help us see what has resulted in our past injuries. So I also have had flat feet all of my life. That was a contributor for my foot and ankle issues. I have since learned that I can make an arch. That's important for our balance. It's important for our joint alignment. So little baby squeeze with this block, and then bringing the awareness to the 8 points in the feet, 2 on either sides of the balls of the feet and 2 in the heels, and see if you can balance them out. And then we're going to add on to this. So once you feel that they're balanced, just lift the toes. Lift the toes, and I want you to notice that inner toe point. So right below the big toe, you probably feel that point pressing into your mat more now with the toes lifted. That second front point is in the area of the baby toe, and you might even feel the points in your heels. And we just look at it as 2 points in each heel on inner and outer. So now relax the toes down. And then one more time, lifting those toes back up. Bring your awareness to your arches. So this is one of the things this block does. Generally, we have either, well, we all have somewhere on the spectrum of either high arches or low arches, or there are those lucky people who have nearly perfect arches and balanced on both sides. But whatever these arches are doing, this is very much in play with what's going on in our feet. So relax those toes back down. We're going to lift them one more time. So I started to say what this block between the thighs does is it actually gives me a bit of an arch that I don't already have. So don't lift your toes yet. I'm just going to show you. When I take this out, I'm going to show you what it would look like if I allowed my feet to go flat, which they do. My ankles pronate, my knees come together. So this block helps to remind my feet to maintain an arch. And that helps with balance, because I can't balance on a foot that's pronated when the ankle is pronated inward. You'll see as we go on that my balance has always been, I call it impaired, especially as a yoga teacher. It's like, man, I've been practicing yoga for 15 years now. These are the rules that we apply to ourselves. Like I always think I should be able to balance better by now. But these are just the things that we continue to work on in yoga. So one more time, lift those toes. Feel how the muscles of the legs engage when you lift your toes, and notice the arch in your foot. And that's it for this practice. That's all. Just an awareness practice and also an alignment practice. So now we're going to come into tree pose. So shake out your feet. We'll have a nice reward at the end. So we're really going to work our feet today. We're not working on much else. We're really focused on the feet. So coming into a balancing posture, tree pose. So I want you to first bring your body weight to a right side body foundation. Bring your hands to prayer. So this helps me. Navel toward the spine, bring hands to prayer. You're also welcome. I would rather you not until you're up in the posture, but you're also welcome to extend arms, but let's focus on lower body. The other thing that helps with balancing postures is finding a non-moving focal point low. Low is best especially for beginners. If balance is easy for you, you're welcome to find a spot on the wall. So bringing this body foundation to right side. So bringing your weight into your right leg. Notice if your ankle is pronated, and try to draw that inner arch muscle toward the inner ankle point, if you can. And then we're just going to start to lift this left leg. And I'm just going to bring my left heel to my right ankle. So this might be your tree pose. One more thing before we go any further with this. Inner knee is drawing toward outer knee here. Hips are going to stay squared forward. Notice when you start to open this inner knee, it makes you want to twist to the left. So we're kind of drawing in two opposite directions here. This right hip is standing firm and left leg is drawing outward. Notice what's going on in that right foot. You're welcome to, I'm not going to be able to demonstrate this on this side. This is the side where I have my ankle injury. But for those that it's easy for you, you're welcome to bring the sole of your foot to that inner, sometimes I lose my words, to that inner calf or to your inner thigh. I'll be able to demonstrate a little better on the other side. Where you cannot put that foot is on the inner knee. So let's come out of this. That's a long time to be in a balancing posture and just shake things out. Balancing postures extremely good for strengthening the feet and bringing awareness to what's going on in the feet. So make sure that spine is aligned as best you can, navel toward the spine, hands back to heart center, and we're going to shift our weight into a left side body foundation. So I've really just rocked to the left just a tiny bit. And then right heel to left ankle, awareness of that left arch of the foot, inner knee toward outer knee, so drawing it outward. So just actively holding this leg outward. You can bring the sole of the foot to the inner calf. You can bring the sole of the foot to the inner thigh. Again, not to the inner knee, ever. Not safe because we don't want to put any pressure on the knee from the side. You're welcome to extend arms. So we all want to be high. We all want to have always, like when we're in a yoga class, we want to in tree pose, be able to put our inner foot to the inner thigh. That's not always possible for all of us. I always say, find where you're stable. Find where you're stable and you can breathe in and you can breathe out. And notice what's going on in this left foot. So the muscles of this left foot are really working. Come out of the posture and shake out the legs. We're just going to come down to the mat. We're going to come down through a half sun salutation. So find that hip width with your feet and inhaling up. Gaze follows the hands. Keep that core engaged. Exhale to prayer. And drop those shoulders back. Lift at heart center. Still core engaged. Inhale. Palms facing forward. Exhale, swan dive. Bend into the knees. We're just going straight down to table. Straight down to table. And then just stepping back with the right foot. Tip those toes under. Now, I'm not pressing back in my hands. I'm activating my leg and pressing back through the heel, just to feel that calf stretch. Navel still draws toward the spine, so core still engaged, so don't allow yourself to drop down here. And just take a couple of breaths into that tight calf. I say it as though it's universal because it probably is. Now stepping back with the left foot, tip those toes under, stretch back, breathing. Gaze down at your mat rather than having your head up high. And then coming right back into your table. So for this next part, rather than going through all of the modifications, and if anybody has any issues with pressure on the knee, you can bring a folded blanket in here under your knees. We're not going to be on our knees for long. So I'm going to refer you back to class number 5 because we're going to do a posture that we did in class number 5, which was for knees and ankles. So if you have knee issues, because I'm not going to go through all of the modifications, I'm going to go through them very quickly in this class. So we're coming into hero's pose. So for those of you who can come right into hero's pose, toes extended back, sits bones sitting right on the backs of the heels. And I'm doing this sideways for you so you can actually see my feet and aligning my spine. So this isn't going to work for everyone. My issue was ankle issues to come into hero's pose. Again, I refer you back to the 5th class in this series for knees and ankles. What you would do is you would take a rolled blanket in varying sizes depending on your ankles, and you could place it in front of this ankle for knee issues, a varying number body to body. With blocks, you can come seated up on a block or 2 blocks or 3 blocks. So hero's pose for those with slightly tight knees or ankles, or healthy knees or ankles that still have most of the range of motion. There's no way I could have done this posture without major modification back in 2010 and 2011. There was way too much pain in my ankles. My ankles were, and they felt like they were fused, especially my left one. Fused in flexion. It was like in a right degree, it was in a right angle, no range of motion at all. So then coming forward back to table, tipping the toes under, and we're coming into a toe stretch. So excellent for those with plantar fasciitis to stretch the plantar fascia. If you can't tip your toes under, again, you can reach that knee forward, tip your toes under, and stretch your foot back. So whenever I teach a class, I always talk about listening to your body, as most yoga teachers do, because everybody is going to be in a different version of all postures. So I'm coming back into this toe stretch to the degree that my body can handle it. So you might just rock back into those feet just a tiny, tiny bit, press your way back. In my class, we call this screaming toe pose. It's funny because man, the first time you do a posture like this, it seems impossible. But when you're used to it, and once you've regained that range of motion in the feet, it becomes no big deal, making your way back down. And then just bringing the tops of the feet to the mat. We're just going to give them a little tap, little tiny tap. And then coming back into that hero's pose again, if you can, or with modification. So now this next part does not apply to anyone who has a blanket rolled in front of the ankle or who is sitting on a block, because if that's the case, you're already working on opening your range of motion. For those who are relatively comfortable in this posture, you can get a nice ankle stretch, an additional ankle and actually knee stretch by walking your hands back. I'm even going to lean my weight into my hands and really stretch the fronts of my ankles. Coming back up to table, making your way down to a seat. And bringing the feet out in front. So this is the real reason that I wanted people to have that extra blanket. So seated, legs out in front, and feet flexed. See if you can feel your sits bones here. Because if you can't feel your sits bones, chances are you're at the backs of your sits bones, your core is really engaged, which means that you need to bring a folded blanket under your sits bones. So not necessarily under your whole seat. Fold it to whatever depth it needs to be or height it needs to be folded to, and place it under your seat. So this is going to help you. The other thing that can be done is you can bring your back right up against a wall in this posture. And now I'm just engaging my feet, which is drawing my toes back toward me. You can feel the stretch in the hamstrings. You can feel the stretch in probably your calves. And then relax. So I'm just going to draw them back and then point them out. It's like doing bicep curls with our ankle and foot muscles. Draw them back and point them out. And breathe as you're doing this. So make sure spine is aligned and draw them back. And now, sort of a namaste and reverse namaste. So I'm going to internally rotate my ankles, trying to bring the soles of my feet toward each other. And then this won't be as obvious. I'm going to try to externally rotate. You won't be able to actually see it in my feet, which is why I'm showing you with my hands as well. Internally rotate. And externally rotate. And internally rotate. And externally rotate. And relax. So one last exercise. This is sort of a mindful relaxation piece. So one more exercise in this position. And you might find some cramping in your feet. So, but what this does, it reminds the muscles how to relax. So often we have muscles that are in holding patterns. So I want you to just crunch up your feet and then relax them. And then curl the toes and crunch up the feet. And then relax them. And that's it. I'm going to bring in a blanket for myself for this next part because it involves almost a bit of folding forward. So you are going to be way better off, and especially anyone new to the practice of yoga, you are going to be way better off with a blanket under your sits bones. Folded blanket. You might even be able to sit up on a pillow for this. You might be able to. It might work for you. So we're just going to come into a seated posture for a moment. And then however you can do it, I'm going to bring a block in here just to demonstrate. So starting with the right foot, find a way to reach your toes. And make sure there is no, of the right leg, and make sure there's no undue stress on the left leg. And what I'm going to do, I call this yogi toes. So we're going to make our toes yogi toes, so that lifting of the toes, spreading of the toes that we often do in yoga. Take your fingers. You might be able to do this, you might not. If this is your first time, we all really struggle to put our fingers between our toes. So I'm just going to weave my fingers in between my toes. Bringing awareness to the toes is one of the things we're doing here, and also a strengthening of the toes. So find first where all of your body can be a little bit relaxed here. And then I'm just going to inhale, squeeze with my hand, which is going to stretch my toes backwards. Exhale, release. And then the opposite direction, like we were doing before, crunching up the toes. Inhale, squeeze with the toes. Squeeze the fingers with the toes, and exhale, release. Inhale, squeeze with the hands. Exhale, release. Inhale, squeeze with the toes. Exhale, release. If you were not able to get your fingers between your toes, no big deal. Just keep trying, because that's how range of motion works. The same way it becomes tight, it gets tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter over time and with age. We can do the same thing in reverse with yoga. So switching feet, you might even stretch the opposite leg out. So you might stretch your right leg out, bring your left leg in, maybe with a block under the knee, maybe leaning forward to reach this foot, and then take your hands. And if you can't fit your fingers in there, just see if you can fit the tips of your fingers in there. They don't have to be in very far to be able to do this. So on your next inhale, squeeze with the hand. Exhale, release, and be gentle. And inhale, squeeze with the feet. And exhale, release, or the toes more accurately. Inhale, squeeze with the fingers and the hands. Exhale, release. Inhale, squeeze with the toes. And exhale, release. So I guess in a sense, this is sort of the yogic version of physical therapy. I'm not a physical therapist. I'm a yoga teacher and a massage therapist. That's why I said the yogic version. So extending that left leg back out. So here's the reward for all of this hard work that we've done with our feet. Find a way to reach your right foot. So left leg out or left leg in or whatever it is. And man, when do we do this? And we should do this maybe every day would be really, really good. So anyone who's had a massage knows how good a foot massage feels. Well, we can do this to ourselves to a certain degree. So just starting to squeeze each one of the toes between the fingers. So I'm just taking my hands and squeezing my toe, and that's all. And then just pressing thumbs in, pressing fingers in, moving down the base of the foot, maybe in the arch area, press the thumbs into the arch area. Make sure you're not feeling any discomfort in your lower back here. If you are, adjust the height of your blanket. And then just take your whole foot and just squeeze it and knead it with your hands. You know, it's funny when we give attention like this to our feet, we become more aware of our feet. So anyone who's doing this with me today, notice your feet. I bet you will notice how good they feel for the rest of the day. You might also notice a little discomfort in your feet, as though like that same kind of discomfort like the day after we go to the gym. You might notice that in your feet because they've had quite a gym workout. So extending out through that right leg, bringing the left leg in, same thing. Just press the toes in between the fingers. And then do those arches with maybe your thumb up and down, breathing the whole while. So anytime we're doing any practice of yoga, and granted we're doing foot massage right now, but this is also part of this particular yoga practice today. And now using your whole hand to knead your whole foot. So we're always trying to calm the nervous system with the breath at the same time. When we calm the nervous system, which massage helps us to calm our nervous system, yoga helps us to calm our nervous system, many other practices help. When we calm our nervous system, our muscles become less tense, our nervous system becomes less tense and able to dedicate resources. So, our nervous system, when we're in a stressed state, is sort of like a resource hog. It's using a lot of the resources. So I hope you've enjoyed this practice today. Thank you so much for joining me. Feel free to join me for a live streaming class anytime. I have live streaming classes. I teach 5 a week. I have an on-demand video library, which features recordings of all of my video classes. This is all brand new to me as of the last year. This is how I remade my business, where I was formerly teaching in a whole bunch of studio spaces, including Maine General. And so last March, when the pandemic hit, I figured out how to do online offerings, and I love it now. So feel free to join me anytime. You can find out everything about me. You can register for classes, anything at kimnixonyoga.com. Thank you for joining me today. Namaste.